And boom, according to that, I am live. Welcome to Tokyo Tonight. This is 2026, back in Japan after being in New Zealand for 2.5 lovely weeks. Got a little bit of sun, maybe you can tell. I mean, actually, it was kind of cold most of the time. They just had like a record temperature of 32 degrees Celsius in Kerikeri yesterday, where I was staying. But most of the time, it was like 22, 21 degrees Celsius and like below 20 like during the morning and night. So I was actually like wearing like long sleeves most of the time that I was there, even though it's summer. Although typical New Zealand summer, it was you still get sunburn and so on. But yeah, it was a great time. Had a great break. Um, uh, just pretty much spent today catching up on Japanese news to see if I missed anything when I was away, to which the answer seems to be not a whole lot, but for what there is, it was 2.5 weeks. And I guess if you include that we did 2.5 voyages before I went away, so it's even longer than that since I've done a Japanese news show. So got a lot to catch up on today, which I'll go through what's happened. The world kind of went to hell while I was away. I don't know if any of you guys noticed that I make a point of trying not to talk about like events and politics of other countries, but damn, what's going on? This is the obvious question about what's going on in the world. We'll probably unavoidably get into all of that, but first and most importantly, we've got Potluck Sushi. New commenter saying a prince from New Zealand. So the name Hiko Simon. I just picked up because when people were suggesting kanji for me when I first got to Japan, they said that you should write, instead of writing Western Gate Simon, my name is Simon, they suggested you should write Simon like Hiko Simon, who's like a famous like court advisor. And Simon was like a common suffix to, people in the Middle Ages in Japan. I Googled it when you said it means prince. I suppose it sometimes gets used as that sort of boy or prince or whatever, but it's just a name. And it's actually, since I went by the head with Hiko Simon, because that was the same kanji that I was using and everyone called me Hiko, I kind of liked it. So I'm Hiko, at least in terms of this YouTube world. That's definitely my name. But that's where it comes from. I'm not claiming I'm neither. I'm Lord from New Zealand, but will never be royals, I suppose, is the answer to that assertion. Good to see you, Potluck Sushi. Thank you for joining. Thank you for commenting. Hope you enjoy the show. I'm glad to see that you are exploding. I hope you do not completely lose your shit with excitement at the show, as has been known to happen. So there we go. Cobras Tenshi, good to have you in here. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Shibas, panning for gold. Like, for real? Like in Panama? Although right now with stuff going on in Central America, including Panama is currently in America's sights, is it not? With the Panama Canal wanting to sort of possibly renationalize that or do something freaky. So panning for gold, probably not actually the dumbest idea. I think the value of gold's been going up because people basically see the world descending into complete chaos. And apparently getting gold is what you can do. So panning for gold, I mean, actually smart, generating wealth. So there we go. We got Seb in here, 3908. I hate that we're all back to handles and not the names that we actually chose for our YouTube accounts for the comments. But Seb, great to see you. Happy New Year. I love your little emoji. Yes. Good to see. In fact, that's not even an emoji. That is your icon, your avatar. No, that is an emoji. That's pretty cool. How'd you do that? You always do that. Anyway, that's a pretty cool one. Good to see you. Happy New Year. We've got Believe in Yourself. Saying hello to everybody. Great to see. We've got Potluck Sushi again, who I just said hello to. Good one for the popcorn vendors. Yes, it will be. Do I spend the next 2 hours watching the award-winning Tim, the assistant language teacher, or painfully sincere anecdotes about Tokyo from a New Zealander? Well, we all have tough choices in life. Anyway, Dan H, great to see you. Lara, Happy New Year. Great to see you in the chat along with everybody else. Nice to see everybody saying hello to each other and being nice. Who else we got? We have Black Tengu. Again, Japan Monomura. Question, why are sheep so stupid? Is that like a joke or an actual question? Because Shepherd's pie. I still don't know if that's a joke or not. Herd-based animal, yeah, sheep. Well, they make the in New Zealand for a long time the most popular show on TV. I shit you not, was a show called A Dog's Show, and it's literally a trial where farmers using whistles to control generally border collie sheepdogs in New Zealand try to herd sheep, but of course the sheep themselves, the stupidity of the sheep was like the wild card that you never knew what was going to happen, the temperament of the sheep and whether they were going to cooperate with the dogs trying to herd them into different pens and maneuver them into different formations. This is like top sports in New Zealand. This was like growing up. So yeah, we actually definitely rely on the stupidity. So that is the thing. Quint Rankid 8045 or Quint Rankid, great to have you in here. Happy New Year. Hope you're doing well. 9 waiting, but only 5 likes. Damn straight, Quinn Rankid. You tell them, hit those likes because I am not monetizing these videos, which is probably why YouTube isn't incentivized to share the channel much, which is why it doesn't grow. I mean, that and the mediocre content, boring format, possibly. But I think it's a lack of monetization. I do it only for the likes, so please help me out here. Who was first today? It looks like first today was Potluck Sushi, straight in there. So, did well. We got Tadom in here. Great to see you, Tadom. Happy New Year. Hope we can catch up again this year. It was cool chatting with you when we met last year. That was cool. Who else we got in here? We got Sunny. Sunny, winner of this week's rap battle using Maori rap music, no less. I went with the background tune instead of the Maori part. He went with the Maori part. That was the winner all the way by a ratio of nearly 2-1. Totally killed it. You killed it, DJ Sunny Side Up. I cannot wait for you to decide. Hey, maybe you can announce it here if you've already got something in mind. What is the next MASH battle track going to be? I made it a little bit hard, but I don't think I made it harder than some of the choices you've made, like TV show themes and so on. But yeah, let us know what's the next MASH battle going to be. We will be around, by the way, for the after party tonight, where you guys will get to pick the tracks. Just a word, New Zealand is 4 hours ahead. I got back a few days ago. I got into and not only is it 4 hours ahead, right now it's 2 a.m. in New Zealand, but also living the healthy country life in New Zealand. I was going to sleep at like 9 or 10 p.m. and waking up at like 6:37. I was basically sleeping with the curtains open and just going to sleep and waking up with the sunlight there. Which means, yeah, it's already 2 a.m. by my body clock. And last night I actually fell asleep at exactly this time, which means I am going to, good news is that tomorrow is coming of age day in Japan. It is a public holiday. Awesome. However, so I can stay up late theoretically, but also I'm going to be like crashing hard. I may fall asleep in the middle of the stream, which would be a first. I've been known to do it to other people, but I've never actually done it to myself. That could be a first. So something exciting to watch for. But yes, I was feeling a bit sleepy before we started the stream. We'll see how I survive. I'll probably keep it to the normal times, a 1 hour after party, but there we go. But big congrats to DJ Sunny Side Up. You killed it with the MASH battle this week. Now I'm back in Japan. I got to lift my game. That's what I got to do. Tech difficulties is freaked me out. It is going, right? Or did I start late? I hope it is. I thought I started by 10:03 p.m. Okay. Anyway, it was definitely live. I was just setting up a bit rusty. I set up the show a little bit late, various other things, but there we go. We are yes, we know why we're congratulating DJ Sunny. So, Demaster, Happy New Year to you, Demaster. Great to see you. Scrabble Bees. Glad I caught you right back, Scrabble Bees. You absolutely rule as well. I get sunburned in the shade. I know the feeling. I've got a similar complexion that does that. But your comments and your moral support is noted, and it is greatly appreciated here and in the MASH battle and everywhere else. Great to have you in the Scrabble Bees as always. Who else we got in here? We got boom. We got people screaming at each other. That is the thing. Inflation is the reason, I'm sure. We got Hiko Rules. Yes, thank you. Just gonna leave. I should just make this the whole title of the show. I think I've got, hey Eddie. Hello there. I hope I haven't missed anybody getting down to this point, but great to see you. Hello. Hey, Eddie. Happy New Year to you. Hope you're doing well. Um, yeah, yeah, jet lag is definitely hard to beat. Sleeping Stream, that's right. I could be doing badly with that, but we'll see. We've got Backstreet Boys, Bye Bye. We're all here. Oh, wait. Is that the thing? It'll be Bye Bye Bye. Okay. That was Deadpool, the latest Deadpool movie. He did like a huge sequence of Bye Bye Bye, if I remember correctly. So got it. Okay, Bye Bye Bye. We're doing it. We're doing it. The next MASH battle. I kind of, do I have ideas? I possibly don't have ideas, but yeah, I'm gonna bring it this week. So look out, man. Well, I don't know. I honestly, I think Bye 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 will be easier to make sound good than some other ones that we've done. I mean, hell, we just did a Maori poi dancing 1980. What year was that song from? It was like from 1981 or something. Poi, original New Zealand old school. So there we go. This will be better. Yeah, I can probably get AI to make me dance the Bye 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 song. It'll be very tasteful. Okay, we are caught up. Thanks to everybody. If you haven't said hello yet, or if I didn't catch you when I was scanning through, do say hello and Happy New Year. We've got 45 minutes. Man, just before I left, I watched Smokey and the Bandit with my dad, and that is still a fantastic movie, by the way, highly recommended. But yes, as the song goes, as Cletus himself, the truck driver in Smokey and the Bandit, sings the song, we've got a long way to go and a short time to get there. So let's get into the topics. Hey Eddie, ironic, you missed most of the live streams while you were in Japan. Now you're back in Europe. Oh, so you were just in Japan. I hope you had a great stay here. It's a good time of year to come to Japan, provided you're not buried under all the snow and everything. I think his name was Cletus, wasn't it? Somewhere I remember seeing in the credits, it's actually with a D, Cletus, which I know sounds like something else, but we're not going to go there. Anyway, let's talk about, so I did the newest topics first, which puts them last here. So I am going to shotgun it through here. First of all, China, as they say, China's still pissed off at the Prime Minister blurting out in Parliament that if China attacks Taiwan, that could represent a threat to the security of Japan, and Japan might invoke a right to collective self-defense. To which China, a country basically still complaining out loudly that Japan is challenging China's sovereignty over Taiwan, which I don't think is what it was doing. But this is also a country which actually was confirmed as having run loops around the Senkaku Islands 356 days last year. So you talk about challenging the sovereignty of another country, like China's been doing it all along. Japan was saying it wasn't challenging anything, but they were saying that they might have to defend themselves if China attacks Taiwan. So, don't attack people, China, because that's not cool. China is now, they're pulling out the pandas. That's not a metaphor. They're literally, Japan has 2 pandas left, which are always given on loan as signs of friendship from China. And China is like, okay, all the pandas get out of the pool. There are 2 pandas currently, I think, in Ueno Zoo, and they are going back to China in January. And there will be no more pandas in Japan, for the first time in ages. But another thing that they are doing is they are no longer accepting new contracts with Japanese companies for rare earths. And this is a lever that China pulled back in 2009, I'm going to say. Back when there was basically when the governor of Tokyo, a nationalist, was going to buy the private land in the Senkaku Islands to put a nationalist lighthouse on there and wave a Japanese wartime military flag and so on, and put a big up yours sign facing China. The government intervened to stop him by basically taking over, nationalizing the privately owned land that was going to be sold to the Tokyo governor to stop him from provoking China. But however, the nationalization of the land itself was seen as provocative by China, and at that time, China blocked all sales of rare earths. And at that time, China had a pretty much 100% control over the rare earths market. And rare earths are things that you need for magnets, for engines, basically for cars, semiconductors, electric motors, you know, all sorts of high-tech systems and so on. They're critical, and China has a pretty much 100% control over these. However, near Japan, not near Japan, but basically part of Japan that's very far away from Japan, sort of towards Guam, there is an island called Minami Torishima, and apparently on the seabed, 5,000 meters down, there are apparently the largest deposits of rare earths in the world, theoretically. The only problem is no one's ever figured out how to do mining at 5,000 meters. So the media is sort of saying, hey, well, now that China's putting the squeeze on Japan again over rare earths, maybe Japan can say that we don't need you. We've got our own rare earths and we're going to just go get those. The problem is, of course, Japan doesn't actually know how to extract them. And while it's highly motivating to go find out how to do it, doing mining 5,000 meters under the sea, you know, you think just put a big vacuum cleaner down there or something, but not quite so easy. But Japan is accelerating experiments to see if it's possible. One, if there even are rare earths there, and if they can figure out some way to exploit them. But yeah, my thought is that while Japan is now accelerating, like this month, they're going to be doing experiments to try to get rare earths from these islands so that China can't sort of blackmail using this. It does remind me how very much what America did to China when they were worried about China becoming too powerful in AI, and they restricted AI chips and so on. Chinese private companies just innovated very efficient, productive AI models. So, you know, you can innovate around coercion like this. And this is and typically that's what smart people do when they are subject to restrictions. And China trying to do this, I think, could backfire and lead to Japan figuring out a way to get its own rare earths. By the way, of course, another big thing about rare earths, it's not that they're rare per se, it's just it's super toxic and environmentally unfriendly. Most countries are not willing to actually have all the pollution entailed with extracting rare earths. That's the biggest problem. However, of course, this is another factor in America talking about attacking Denmark by invading and colonizing Greenland, because theoretically Greenland, and certainly much easier to exploit than the seafloor that Japan is thinking about. But this is another aspect of all of this playing in at the moment. It takes away resource leverage from China. Still not a reason to attack another NATO country, but you know, in Japan's case, it'd be good if they can figure it out themselves. But is this the solution everyone hopes? Apparently not, but there we go. Quint Rankin pointing out, and this is the problem, the pressure of water at 5,000 meters is, I mean, who knows what a pound is? I'm not sure. It's kind of funny. In a way, I get it, Quint, that you're using freedom units, but 5,000 meters, however that is in feet, what would that be in feet? That would be about 3,000 feet per kilometer, so 15,000 feet underwater. Very, very deep, probably even more than that, actually, now that I think about it. That would be 7,250 pounds per square inch. Anyway, you're not having a good time is the point. So pretty difficult to extract. Is that Bird Island, New Zealand 2.0? Well, Japan kind of is. New Zealand is kind of Japan 2.0. Davo Dentetsu, great to have you in here. We've missed having you in here. Glad that you can make it. Are you still in West Australia? Anyway, great to have our Perth representative joining us once again, making me sound a little bit more Australian. I actually had some good moments when I was back in New Zealand, by the way. I was talking to some people. I sort of rediscovered my both my New Zealand accent, talking to my Kiwi friends. Whenever I go back to Australia, I do slip into a bit of an Aussie accent. My mother is Australian. I did live a long time in Australia growing up. But I remembered as well, when I was in army schools, majority Maori schools in central North Island, you sort of adjust how you speak a little bit to fit in a little bit more. And I was talking with someone who was speaking with a bit of a Maori accent, and I realized I slipped back into my school. I wasn't speaking in a Maori accent, but I was speaking in a kind of a a real New Zealand accent. You know, I was just talking like everything's like a question and like I'm not too confident. And yeah, there's a certain way of speaking which I got back into. It was kind of fun. Anyway, excellent to have you in here. Also, excellent to have P. Morgan in the comments. Glad to have you here. And that's right. Now the US is begging China to buy their chips. It is a mess. Nothing. I mean, the first rule of most things is that they'll never go exactly as you as you as you plan it will. But who knows? Who knows? Now I wanted to know how many French mathematicians that is. Thank heavens for the French. Said somebody sometime, possibly, probably not. Anyway, continuing on. Of course, we got the agenda for tonight. Sunny winning the MASH battle here on Tokyo Tonight after party starting at the top of the hour. What else we got in here? We've got, this is kind of big news. Mainichi is very upset. Apparently, one of the operators of the Chubu Denryoku, I think it is, they fabricated their earthquake risk reports. Basically, as you know, after 2011, after the big Great East Japan earthquake, all of the nuclear power plants were closed, and each one of them basically were after an investigation of all of the causes and all of the ways to prevent a disaster like that happening ever again. New, more stringent both seismic and safety requirements were imposed on all nuclear reactors. That basically all the nuclear operators in Japan have spent 15 years reconstructing the nuclear reactors to be able to withstand earthquakes and tsunamis and everything else to make sure that that event can never happen again, at least under those circumstances. And everyone's kind of been building these things quite hard. But of course, you know, large, lazy, big power companies that run sort of corrupt, that rig construction tenders and so on, they're going to act as they act. And apparently this particular one was caught in the act of faking its earthquake test data for its report, which not only means that they don't get recertified to be able to start generating electricity again, but the Mainichi is actually calling for them to have their nuclear license revoked. Of course, a tricky thing here, they definitely, I mean, this is exactly the plot of the movie The China Syndrome, which is like a 1970s movie, Jane Fonda and some other people. And honestly, it's a very boring movie, but I remember watching it on TV. I think we recorded it on VHS and I watched it a couple of times. But the whole thing about that was literally faking not necessarily seismic data, but faking test data, which meant that the whole thing fell apart. Spoiler alert anyway. But yeah, so that's bad news. The thing is, given record temperatures everywhere, including in New Zealand when I left, in Japan here, looking at what's happening in Iran right now, like I know that everyone's like saying, haha, Iran serves you right. But what's fundamentally happened, a lot of things have happened in Iran, including like terrible just mismanagement of the economy there. Of course, sanctions and stuff as well, but certainly the way that the regime has managed water and has managed resources there has also been terrible. The way that they've been doing high intensity water-based agriculture, and which they've basically fed water by deep drilling and emptying the aquifers, which has caused all of their reservoirs to run out of water. But also what's happened is with climate change, the rain-falling areas in Iran have changed and they've moved further north. And this is another way in which the changing of the climate, which while they made a whole bunch of human-based errors within management of that country that's leading to the consequences that we're seeing right now with everybody in Iran being fed up with the government there. But another major trigger of this was just the climate changing. And given that, there is a scientific consensus that climate change exists and it's significantly contributed to by human activities, this is a sort of thing where, again, climate change remains the most important existential threat towards human civilization and humanity. This is an example of how the climate changing is going to represent, like literally you got a huge country running out of water right now. And from that perspective, we should be trying to use every non-carbon emitting source of power. We should be trying to transition from fossil-based energy, which is contributing to this. I mean, the amount of carbon in the atmosphere has gone up multiples over the last, 100 years or so, since they've been measuring from the top of the volcano in Hawaii. It's crazy how much carbon we've added to the air. And nuclear power plants are an important part of the solution. I mean, if you're a serious, if you take this thing seriously, we really need to be getting the nuclear power plant. Japan using natural gas and fossil fuels to replace all these offline nuclear power plants for the last 15 years has been a disaster for the environment and from a climate change perspective. And you can't do it all just with renewables. So we need these nuclear power plants to be back online, but we also can't have them being run by arseholes, because when they explode, as did happen in 2011, that's not a good thing. So I don't know. It's very, very disappointing, but it shouldn't mean that we don't restart the plant. But we should obviously go back and do those tests again and kick the people who fake the test results up the arse. So there we go. Aaron, glad that you made it. Great to have you in here. And there's a ton of mismanagement. It's they're not for Iran first. They're funding. Yeah, they've spent all their money on giving it away to terror groups that to basically fire rockets at people and do stuff. Iran's done a lot of things wrong. I mean, starting with the takeover of the US embassy, and pretty much from that moment onwards, from the moment of the revolution onwards, they've just been a pack of assholes. They have. And it's great to see their own people now no longer taking the shit. But the running out of water has been a significant, that and the hyperinflation happening over there and various other factors that again are due to mismanagement of the economy there, including giving basically all of the money that they have away to groups like Hamas and so on, is and Hezbollah is another thing that is coming back to haunt them. And I think that's that's a good thing, but it's not. There again, I feel bad for the Iranian people having to go through that, and especially having them run out of water. So anyway, point being, don't fake nuclear power tests. Anyway, there is the global city ranking. Not much information exactly on what this. Oh, I see. It won't let me. I need to share the whole window. I've just realized I just clicked on this to show the actual article, but it's like, okay, let me do this. Boom. I just realized I'm rusty. First stream of the year, I shared the tab rather than the window, which meant, okay, that's why. I was wondering why, boom, this was all set up all funny, and now I realize I was sharing the tab rather than the window. So now this fits. Okay, so Japan is now number 2. We're number 2. Apparently in the in fact, now I see this, the Mori Memorial Foundation released its Global Power City Index. So in terms of the power cities of the world, 48 cities via 72 indicators based on economy, research development, cultural interaction, livability, environment, and accessibility. London still comes out as the power city, the top global power city. New York, however, has fallen from 2 to 3, and Tokyo has moved up to 2. I don't know why. Japan has apparently been 3rd place for 9 successive years, but we just rose to 2nd rank for the first time ever. Suck it, New York. It was top for livability. You know what? I kind of get this though. When you go to, I mean, again, it kind of sucks to be earning Japanese yen. We're going to get to this. The real wages in terms of the cost of living in Japan for Japanese people is actually, real wages have gone down 2.8% over the last year. So inflation is still exceeding wage inflation, and Japanese are getting poorer. But oh my God, the inflation and the cost of living and everywhere else in the world has gone berserk. Japan is so insanely affordable and reasonable. Rents are the same here as they were back in the 90s. The problem is that wages have gone down. That's the way that rents feel more expensive. So definitely livability and cultural interaction improvement. So there we go. 7th for the environment function. Tokyo actually, it's, I mean, it used to be a place that, there were literally toxic. Tokyo Bay and and the rivers going into it were literally toxic streams. And now I still wouldn't go swimming in them, but you could actually probably swim in them. People catch fish in them. I hope they don't eat them. But it has improved a lot. So there we go. Osaka's also come up with the Expo. Fukuoka also rose to 40th. I mean, Fukuoka, seriously. Okay, on a power ranking, I have no idea what power ranking means, but Fukuoka is a much nicer city to live in than Tokyo, like infinitely. But anyway, there we go. London is doing great, but Tokyo number 2. I'm gonna have to speed this up, I think, as usual. But there we go. London is completely completely messed up with inflation, empty shops, and people fleeing. Well, they came out in terms of the power rankings, whatever that means. But there we go. But yeah. Again, it'd be a long list. I've been watching a lot of videos in the last week about all the things that the Iranian regime has been doing wrong, and it is more than one or two things that is true. Cannot be summarized in a tweet. But among the things that they've done, they've run out of water, and that's one of the big things right now. Hey Sadiq, happy New Year! Great to see you. You will go walk. Go walk, enjoy. Hope to see you back at the after party where I will be looking for your track requests. I'm still talking about units of measurements. Did I do that? I don't know. Yeah, it is ironic that the one country that broke away from the empire is now the only country still speaking their language and using more countries speak the language, but using imperial units. It is kind of funny. Anyway, the next one that we've got, Taiwan. The Chinese Foreign Ministry is pounding Japan over saying that over its claim to right to collective self-defense over Taiwan. And yet, meanwhile, Chinese ships are patrolling around the Senkaku Islands for 356 days last year, like they own the place, which is what they claim. So again, it's this tactic that we are seeing everywhere. Russia does it, China does it, certain other people do it, where they head off the accusation of something by preemptively accusing the other person of doing it first. And say, yeah, Japan, you're claiming our territory, when it's totally China doing it, and doing it much more for much longer. And it's just that Japan's kind of too nice to be, assholes about it, is my take on it. But there we go. Alcoholism, really interesting. Apparently there's a Japanese National Hospital Organization, and something I've never heard of, but it seems to be a government thing. They did a study where they have currently estimated that the number of people with alcohol use disorder, apparently they don't want to say number of alcoholics, but whatever. They estimate that Japan, a country of 120 million people, has 3 million people with alcohol use disorder, i.e. they can't stop drinking. They are addicted to alcohol. Of that, about 2.6 million, if I recall correctly, estimated to be men, and 400,000 estimated to be women. This is the same number as 2018. So interesting. I would have expected it would have declined. I suppose. I mean, you could say it's all just old people continuing to drink, but that would also imply that none of them have died, in which case you'd say that alcohol is possibly extending their lives and preserving them, and we should all drink alcohol, which I think would be the wrong conclusion to draw. But it does seem strange to me, because there is definitely the continuing trend in Japan of both young people drinking less, and generally people, my impression is, like, company parties, like when people are now free to not drink, people drink less. And this was a change that really happened significantly around 2010. So I would have expected, certainly alcohol consumption is dropping to the point that the government is literally begging young people to get smashed. And to smash, they also want them to have children. It's a very complicated situation, yet the number of alcoholics is still 3 million. I don't know what the number of alcoholics in the UK is, but I suppose it's probably about 95% of whatever the population number there is. And same in New Zealand. I'm kind of surprised in some ways that Japan doesn't have more people who are addicted to alcohol, but yeah, I would have expected. It's interesting. I think most places are registering declines, and my casual observations around me is that people seem to be drinking less. But somehow there's been an increase. Certainly during the pandemic, there were some people who increased drinking. That is true, but I know a lot of people who have reduced anyway. So there we go. Continuing on, Tokyo is apparently now has slipped in terms of population. Jakarta, the world's biggest city, is Dakar, I think. Oh, actually, no. Dakar will be the world's biggest city. In fact, let's get this right. Jakarta is now the world #1 city, and Tokyo slips to #3. It's dropped down to 30.7 million people. It slipped down currently to 33.4 million. So I always think of Greater Tokyo anyways, about 35 million. Tokyo Prefecture is 14 million. But there is actually a contiguous city which encompasses Yokohama, Chiba, the Saitama city, basically all the surrounding prefectures are all basically just one big city. If you flew over it, you wouldn't be able to tell where these other prefectures are. So as a mega city, Tokyo has about 35 million people in the urban area of Tokyo, or Shotoken. And they're predicting that by 2050, that is going to drop down to 37 million, dropping to 7th rank. Whereas Dhaka is forecast, the capital of Bangladesh, is forecast to become the biggest city in the world with 52.1 million people. But right now, Jakarta is the largest city with 41.9 million people. Super interesting as well, because Jakarta, same problem, no, different problem, perhaps but subsidence there from private wells and stuff. Just the city there is basically built on the same like Mexico City. It's built on a swamp. Without proper sewage or water supply or anything like that, and it's sinking into that swamp, which is why they are in the process of relocating the capital of Indonesia to a new city in Borneo, I believe, which is something similar to what Malaysia has successfully done. So you'd think if they're going to move the capital, probably in the future, that population you would expect to see drop, but that is still pretty incredible. There's 41.9 million. I know people have lived in Jakarta, and they point out the problems there, that there's no like public sewage. Cities, literally buildings have private septic tanks and stuff like that. Like safe water, the rate at which even within the capital, the city, that you can get cholera and have water problems there, as well as subsidence caused by all the private wells there. Kind of crazy, but there we go. So yeah, anyway, Japan slipping in the rankings, still 30 million, nothing to be sneezed at. It is still an enormous city, and that is what makes it. I do believe that the huge population here is a big part of what makes it such an interesting place to be. And I must admit, you don't really think that much about places like Dakar or Indonesia or Jakarta, but I do think a lot of the fantastic culture of Tokyo is a result of the large population, and maybe these other places as well are going to have these sort of cultural subculture neighborhoods and stuff like that, like Tokyo. However, they've also got a lot of problems. I mean, a city of 50 million people is kind of hard to comprehend, but there we go. Tokyo slipped to #3, but #2 on the global power rankings. And so, Japan's in decline, but doing it in style. Oh, interesting. Dan H. I was being flippant about how, certainly with the comment about, again, my perception when I go to UK and New Zealand is that we have kind of a binge drinking culture. But agree. I would suspect that the threshold that they're using in that study for alcoholic is probably lower than what they would use for alcoholic in a country like the UK. But I could be wrong about that. But that would be because that study says 3 million out of 120 million, which now that I think about it, I suppose is that's about 2 point something percent. So it is about double that of the UK. Yeah, who knows? Who knows? It could be that Japan actually as well. I'm sure UK people drink more per capita, but am not going to check that live on the show right now, but I could be. Yeah, again, that's just an impression. This is an interesting stat that came out. Foreign residents make up nearly 1 in 10 of all people in their 20s in Japan, i.e., the people who are doing the most to work and pay taxes and to look after the elderly in Japan or whatever. The people that are keeping the economy going in Japan. 1 in 10 of foreign workers are now foreign residents. So I think we are 3 million of the overall. So a little bit less than 3% of the total population. But of that critical 20 to 30-year-olds, people like working in the factories and, doing the critical work for the economy and earning wages and paying taxes and contributing to pensions and so on that elderly and so on are relying on. 1 in 10 of those are foreigners. Again, showing that foreigners are playing an increasingly critical role in the economy and the society in Japan. So interesting there. G7, I was wondering myself, and I was sure that I was going to get asked, how is Japan reacting to the, whatever we want to call it, happened in Venezuela? Is it an invasion? It's kind of, by the way, and since we'll talk about Venezuela quickly, absolutely no sympathy whatsoever for Maduro. He was not a legitimate leader. He was a thug. He clearly was in power based on rigged elections and maintained power through intimidation and through the colectivos, the gangs and so on. What they did to the opposition, arresting them, killing them, driving them overseas and stuff like that. It's great that he's out of power. But that said, going in nakedly saying that we're going in there for the oil. It's literally, and again, I don't know if he's directly involved in drug dealing, but that feels a little bit like, putting Saddam Hussein in the New York District Court for making WMDs. Of all the things they could get him for, they're going for that. It doesn't make much sense. But also the whole thing that, invading other countries, kind of like, even if they're run by assholes, still not cool, and again, kind of to me, the whole thing, the fact that it looks like it may have been faster and more limited, hopefully, than has happened elsewhere, but it looks a lot like what happened in Ukraine. But anyway, something that's so obviously a breach of international law, it's so clearly and obviously a breach of international law. This is exactly what Russia did. It's exactly what we're telling China not to do. Let alone, oh my God, if America does this with Greenland, that'll pretty much be the end of, any kind of international order, honestly, which has been held up by America saying, hey, everybody should follow the rules. So the moment America stops doing that, it's not like the world's been perfect, but, I think the whole system falls apart and ends, honestly, if that happens. So you'd expect that the group of seven, the 7 most powerful economies in the world, would probably want to be the ones counterbalancing this idea and trying to make sure that nobody goes absolutely crazy and destroys the whole international order of peace and security. However, at the same time, no one really wants to say anything. So I suspect they're going to work closely on Venezuela, whatever the hell that means. And I'm sure none of them, Germany, France, UK, Italy, Canada, Japan, I think, are the ones. China, maybe. Is China in the G7? Anyway, they're all looking at each other nervously, saying, you go first, you say something. And no one's really saying anything. No one really feels... again, the right thing to do here would be to, allow the actual... either to bring in the proper election results from the previous rigged election, or to just run the election again and release all the political. Good news is they are releasing all the political prisoners and everything, but America's sort of made it clear no, they're not really interested in democracy. They're just interested in grabbing as much oil from there as possible. And even Exxon saying like, if that country's uninvestable, what are you giving me this shit for? But who knows what's happening there? Japan's opinion is Well, that's very interesting, and we stand closely with all the other ministers who are also not saying anything about it. That is Japan's position. Jen Motz, Happy New Year! Great to see you. Sorry you're late. It's okay. I was nearly late myself. They got Capone on taxes. They did get well, but the thing is, Capone almost certainly was not paying taxes. That's true. I don't know for all the things that Maduro did. Where that he was, was he Pablo Escobar? I mean, he could have been, but that's that. There's plenty of other shit. Anyway. But the point is, you just have given that there's no global government, and assuming that you don't want there to be a global government, then you need an honor-based system of not acting like assholes. And, again, you can't, and it's in a society where it's like in Japan. It's what I love about Japan. When they say, we're not going to force you this, we're not going to arrest you if you leave your houses like they did in New Zealand and in Europe and some other places, but they're going to say, we're going to have this system where we're going to ask you nicely, please stay at home and please mask up and don't go out unless you need to. And please don't be an asshole. And in that system, you know that there's going to be some assholes who are going to break the rules. But so long as enough people agree it's better for everyone if we not act like assholes, you can tolerate a small percentage of assholes in any system. But when, the big leaders, the example setters are the ones that who everyone looks up to are the ones who become the assholes. Then the system, the order-based system falls apart, and you need to start putting people, in jail to get any sort of control. You literally start to need a world government for any sort of peace and justice in the world, and that's what I am afraid will fall apart if America starts acting like Russia and China. In fact, and China, well, we're all talking tough on China, and China's declared that it is going to invade Taiwan. So everybody get yourselves ready. They haven't actually done it yet. So really the parallel is Russia. And, the easiest thing to say in the world is Russia's acting like assholes. It really hurts to say that America is acting that way. That said, don't really care what happens to Maduro. It's good that he's out of power, and I feel good for the people of Venezuela on that. But I don't feel so good that they're being declared as having been taking over. And I don't what do you even say? Because Japan obviously relies on its close partnership with America, and it doesn't want its best buddy to turn into an asshole. So that's the problem that Japan's facing. And so far, they're not criticizing America because they love America. They're hoping America will change. But we'll see. Also has the largest gold reserve. I didn't know that. They have the largest gold reserves. I thought South America was famous for like silver. I hadn't heard about gold. That's an interesting one. I'm surprised UAE isn't in there. UAE's apparently been sending in militias into every ungovernable place that has gold. I hadn't heard about silver. So there we go. That could be the thing. I mean, yeah, and again, anything that hurts the Russian economy right now, great. And, price of gas getting cheaper, wonderful, but still, don't just, simple principle. Don't act like, try to get there without acting like Russia. I mean, what's the point in punishing Russia when you become Russia in the process of going through there? So, yeah. And taking all the oil, I mean, they're not even pretending to be doing it based on principle or any concept of justice, right? It's basically that is kind of the thing. So, please, America, please don't turn into Russia. We like you better than Russia for good reasons. But I that's where it seems to be going. The world does seem to be going to hell. In other news, much nicer news than that. Japan's real wages fell 2.8%, down for the 11th month because inflation, while modest in Japan, is going up higher than wages are. Wages are not going up. Everybody's getting poor. Great if you're a tourist from a country with high inflation and high wage inflation, where your money will go a lot further here and you get to live in an awesome place and everything's cheap and wonderful, but kind of sucks if you're earning money here, as I was saying before. The governor of Mie, speaking of assholes, said that he is going to end hiring of all foreign staff in the prefectural, the Mie prefectural offices. To which a lot of mayors from towns in the prefecture of Mie have been saying, hey, we've got like a lot of our towns are supported by factories that would close and collapse without large populations of foreigners to work in them and their families living in our towns who are contributing to our towns. And so, the idea that the governor is leading a push, at least with these, granted, he hasn't said that the whole prefecture is going to stop hiring foreign civil servants across the board. He's just saying in prefectural offices, he is going to end hiring of foreign staffers. But all these mayors are pointing out there's good reasons that we hire foreign staff. We need to include and involve the people in our communities. And, you need people who can speak Portuguese, you need people who can speak Chinese to be able to provide, city services and so on, and to be able to help if you have an earthquake or a natural disaster. You need to put out information in those languages. You need to help out with you need to be able to organize activities and bring it in. Often this means, having people both language, cultural understanding, and also just giving opportunities to include. And, remember, civil service includes all sorts of things. And to be clear, he's not actually talking about not hiring this, but he's kind of raising the idea of this as a populist thing. And people pointing out that, having teachers from other countries, who are civil servants, having people who work, engaged in parts which basically making sure that these cities are coherent and happy and inclusive and so on. The idea of just not hiring, of excluding foreigners from that is a recipe for kind of fucking everything up. And everybody's saying, have you lost your mind to the governor on this? So kind of good. It's actually, in a way, racism can be good when it can remind everybody of why it's bad, like not just bad in terms of like you naughty person, but bad in terms of just stupid to be racist sometimes. There can be a heavy tax for being stupid racist. And right now, Mie is getting that lesson from its own mayors. And that's kind of a good thing. It's kind of heartwarming to see everybody surrounding the governor with pitchforks and throwing Molotov cocktails at him. Nice to see. Koizumi, who's currently on a trip to the US at the moment. Koizumi, you might remember, as environment minister, pledged to make the environment sexy again. Now he's the minister of defense. And I guess he's actually been tasked with setting up a Japanese version of the CIA, and he's currently over in America to affirm that Japan is basically going to do whatever the hell America wants and agrees with everything America has ever said and thought, and who likes Greenland anyway, and who else do you want to invade, because whoever it is, we support it, and all this sort of stuff. He's over there to do that. He actually went down to Okinawa before going over there, where he vows to ease the US base burden on Okinawa in talks with the governor. Now, don't worry. When Hatoyama said that he was going to arrange to have US bases relocated from Okinawa, and Hillary Clinton got him in a room and he came out pale and shaking and resigned as prime minister, and that never happened. You will know when Koizumi says it that he doesn't really mean it. Koizumi basically... while the governor of Okinawa said, yeah, that marine base that's being relocated from Futenma to Henoko, we need you to stop that. And he's like, well, yeah, no, we're going to do that. So he's basically said, yeah, we're going to like do things to make it not feel, to make it not feel so bad. But yeah, you still have to do everything that we and America tell you to do. So this was more, I doubt he's in America right now. He's probably asking for tips on how to set up a Japanese CIA, which is probably by doing the opposite of what Japanese has done in terms of setting up intelligence until now. But yeah, Jack Mercer, 4244, so much stuttering. That, I guess, is, I don't know, is that your stream? Is that me? Did I stutter? I think that's a line from Pulp Fiction. You're making me chase squirrels that don't need to be chased. K-Stuff, good to see you in here. And everybody else, Happy New Year. I've got 2 minutes left. I'm going to continue going on. Japan survey. So now that Takaichi is talking about restricting the rights of foreigners to purchase land in Japan, Uh, Two problems. One, they've discovered there's no information. They don't have on the land registry the nationality of the owners of land. So they don't know how many foreigners own land in the first place, unless the land in question is a national strategic security designated piece of land. So they're going to do that, but they've also found that many countries in the G7, I used to do as a job these surveys for the Japanese government, these legal surveys of other countries. They've discovered, yeah, lots of countries, including top G7 countries like Japan, already restrict foreign ownership of land. And I do remember, for example, when my father, who's married to an Australian, or was married to an Australian when I was a kid, when they bought a house in the Gold Coast, my dad wasn't allowed to purchase it because Queensland, which at the time had a New Zealand-born governor, did not allow any foreigner, including New Zealanders, to buy land in Queensland, and the whole transaction had to be done in my mum's name. So yeah, lots of countries are stupid with this. I do hope that, yeah, if they bring in restrictions on land transactions and stuff like that, that they figure out what they're doing it for. What problem do they want to solve? And are they targeting overseas speculators? Are they targeting people from certain countries buying land in certain places? I hope it's not just a blanket foreigners can't buy land anymore. Seriously, there would be no point in living here, actually. I don't own property here, but if there's this idea that I can't buy land in the future, like, and retire here, if it becomes that type of a restriction, even though I'm a permanent resident here, then there would be no reason to live here anymore. I hope that sort of thing doesn't happen, but I can understand reasonable restrictions like a lot of other countries have. So yeah, Japanese defense minister to visit US next week to reaffirm strong triad ties. My thought here, what he's probably going to say is that we oppose the invasion and annexation of Greenland, but if you do, could we discuss rare earths? Because mining them from 5,000 meters under the ocean is pretty hard. I don't know. Japan's probably not going to be the one calling out America on any of this, but please, America, please, Denmark. They were like hardcore allies. They were sending boots on the ground to freaking Iraq, when a lot of other countries didn't want to. Denmark's been one of America's best allies inside NATO. Like when America's wanted to go off and do things, Denmark's been there. And the idea that now America is about to just go, and look, also Greenland rightfully shouldn't be part of Denmark. That is true. It should, the idea most European countries have given up their colonies, including New Zealand, and so on, and Greenland primarily has the right to self-determination. But the idea of it being handed around like a Jeffrey Epstein employee, like there was that what's her face, who the employee at Mar-a-Lago who got passed off to got passed off to Jeffrey Epstein, who committed suicide. That would be Greenland in this scenario if it went from Denmark to America. It shouldn't really be passed around by anybody. So don't do that. But if you do, I'm sure Japan would like the rare earths. So anyway, Japan's going to go over there and fully agree with America on everything. Don't worry. I didn't know about this. Prime Minister Takaichi, who's working like a maniac by all accounts. She's working like 7 days around the clock. But she's also full-time looking after her husband. Her husband used to also be a politician, but he had a stroke last year. And she is working as a home carer for him as well, full-time, while working as Prime Minister. And she's actually moving into the official Prime Minister's residence now so that she can continue working while taking care of her husband, who she is the sole carer for, who suffered a stroke. So I must say, there's lots of things about Takaichi. While I really disagreed with a lot of her political views and so on in the past, and was highly skeptical about her as a prime ministerial candidate, the idea that at least the understanding that it would generate from her to be a home carer and a woman at the same time, and someone who's not a legacy, not someone who's come into the party and become successful in politics through family ties. She's smart and hardworking, and damn, that's also admirable that she's doing one of the hardest jobs out there. She's doing it while being a home carer to her husband. It's quite remarkable. So the more I hear things like that, the more I'm like, well, maybe she is actually, maybe I've been a bit too harsh on her, but we'll see. Heavy snow falling all over Japan. It was 15 degrees and sunny today. I went for a run. I posted it on Instagram. It was lovely. Actually, not that much colder even than in New Zealand in the middle of summer, right? Well, a week ago anyway when I left. So Tokyo is great. That's because we're protected and sheltered by mountains here. The rest of Japan just gets buried in snow. That's partly why they moved the capital here. Tokyo is awesome. So yeah, China pulling a rare earth contract. So I mentioned that at the beginning. Niseko, is it becoming foreignized? Well, yeah, look at this. A teishoku, a set meal. I would not expect to spend. Look at this thing. I wouldn't expect this to be more than like, I don't know, 1,500, 1,600 yen in Tokyo. Most set meals of this type of thing would normally be about 1,200 yen. This is 6,800 yen. It is expensive. Apparently the system that they're figuring out in Kuchan and Niseko, which are kind of Australian enclaves now in Hokkaido, is that they're bringing out an ID system, which apparently a local ID for residents, which they can show and then get the local price, which will be the normal price. So kind of a two-tier pricing thing, which makes sense when you think of what's happened in places like Spain and Hawaii, where locals are priced out of everything because wealthy outsiders are coming in. Yeah, it kind of makes sense. And final story that I've got, the first one, oh, and this is a big one. Takaichi is considering mulling, she is mulling, which in Japan generally means as a headline that she's totally going to do it, having a snap election in the lower house in February. The implication of that is right now her coalition has only a 1%, has only a 1-seat voting margin majority on everything. So if somebody catches a cold and the government can't operate with the coalition arrangement that it has, that said, she's got a 70% approval rating. She's maintained an approval rating for longer than most prime ministers. Partly because of this Japan flap, or the Taiwan flap, I should say. So she is considering, and she's going to probably announce this week, whether she's going to call a snap election, by which hopefully she can ride the wave of the current popularity that she's experiencing to get more seats and a more comfortable control, at least of the lower house. They still will have a minority in the upper house, so they'll still have problems, but it could be interesting. We could be dealing with a national election within a month, so we'll find out about that soon. Anyway, that is all of it. We are 3 or 4 minutes over. Well, we're actually, there we go, 1 minute over on the timer, but by time, we've got, 5 minutes over. Jack Mercer, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day, but there we go. Ida from Denmark, you can't own land as a foreigner. You know what, given what's happening at the moment, maybe it's good that you're not letting foreigners own land. Who knows? Can't vote as a citizen if you live outside the country. Either that is the same in New Zealand if you leave the country for more than 3 years. Although you just have to touch grass in New Zealand once, and you can vote again. So I can do that now. Yeah. Anyway, great to see everybody. I am going to jump over now and get onto the after party. So check out Tokyo Digital Crew, where that is going to be happening. Hope that you. Thanks for joining me once again. Remember to like the video if you liked it. Even if you didn't like it, like the video, especially you, Jack Mercer, because I know that you enjoyed it. I'll see you all back here next week. It's good to be back in Japan. I will be a little bit less sleepy next week and possibly more coherent. There is the link for the after party. Thank you, Aaron. As always, have a great week, everybody. If you've got some tracks you want me to play, I'll play them in the after party. See you soon. Boom. Peace. See you next week. Ending stream.